My family kicked me out for not giving my 4-year savings to my lazy brother. Now they're spreading lies that I'm on drugs. But what I did next left them speechless. I'm 19 years old, studying business administration in college, and I basically just lost my entire family over $37,000 that took me 4 years of my life to save. And no, I didn't steal it, didn't spend it on drugs or anything like that. I simply refused to give it to my older brother who has never worked a full day in his life. But anyway, I guess I should start from the beginning so this makes sense. Because the thing is, this situation has been dragging on since I can remember. I just never thought it would come to this. Since I was like 15 years old, I started working. And when I say working, I mean anything I could get. I started mowing neighbors' lawns on weekends, then got a part-time job at a coffee shop near my school. After that, I was a waiter at an Italian restaurant, the hardest job I've ever had. Seriously. And for the last 2 years, I've been working at a supermarket while studying. Basically, if I wasn't in class, I was working. And all that money, every cent, I didn't too. Need for my basic expenses, I saved it. I had a clear goal from the start. I wanted to save up enough money to start my own business when I graduated. Something related to digital marketing, which is what I study. Nothing fancy, but it was my dream, you know? My brother Chase, on the other hand, is 24 years old and literally has never held a job for more than 3 months straight. And it's not because he has some disability or serious problem. He's just lazy and has always been my parents' golden child and never had to work for anything. When we were like 10 and 15, respectively, Chase was the golden boy who got good grades without studying much, so my parents thought he was a genius or something. I, on the other hand, always had to work twice as hard to get decent grades. And I guess that's where the favoritism started, although I was too young to realize it at the time. The thing is, Chase graduated high school, went to college, my parents paid for everything, obviously, and dropped out like 2 years in because, according to him, it wasn't his thing. Since then, he's been living at my parents' house without paying rent, without working consistently, basically being completely supported by them. And my parents, instead of giving him an ultimatum or something, have always defended him with the classic, he's finding his path, or not everyone has to follow the traditional route. Meanwhile, I was working after school and paying my own expenses since I was 15, but well, that was normal for them because I wasn't the special child. Everything exploded like 2 months ago. One afternoon I got home from the supermarket, like 9 at night because I'd had a double shift, and I saw Chase super excited, showing something on his phone to my parents. I walked over because, I don't know, I assumed maybe he'd gotten a job or something that justified so much excitement. Turns out no. He had found an apartment he loved in a super nice area of the city, one of those new buildings with a gym and pool included, you know, the type of place that costs like triple what's normal. And Chase was there all excited, saying he was finally going to have his own space, that it was going to be a new beginning for him, blah blah blah. My mom was super excited too, saying things like, "Oh honey, I'm so proud that you want to be independent," and my dad nodding his head all serious. I thought, well, finally he's going to have to get a real job to pay for that place. This is going to be interesting. But oh, surprise. When I asked how he was going to pay for it, Chase looked at me like it was obvious and said that Mom and Dad were going to help him with the rent for the first few months until he got something stable. Sure, because that had worked super well the last 6 years, right? But the real bomb dropped like 3 days later. I was in my room studying for an exam when my parents knocked on the door and came in with that serious face they make when they're going to have an important conversation. They asked me to come downstairs to the living room because they needed to talk about something family-related. I went down thinking maybe they were going to tell me they were getting divorced or something because the atmosphere was super tense. I sat on the couch and my dad cleared his throat. You know, that awkward sound people make before saying something difficult, and then he dropped it. He said that Chase had found the perfect apartment to start his new life, that the deposit and first month's rent cost like $6,000, but they needed a bit more money for furniture and basic things, and that they had thought of me because, and I quote literally, "You've been very good at saving, and we know you have a considerable amount saved up." My mom quickly added that they didn't want all my money, just that I lend them like $10,000 to help Chase get established, that it's what family does, support each other. I sat there processing what I had just heard. I mean, Seriously? They wanted me to give them $10,000 of the $37,000 I had killed myself working for 4 years so my brother could rent a luxury apartment he couldn't even afford? I told them no, that money was for my business, that I had worked years to save it and I wasn't going to give it to Chase. My dad frowned and said I was being selfish, that Chase was my brother, and that family helps each other. My mom started with the classic guilt trip of, I never thought you'd be so stingy with your own blood, and when you needed something, we were always there for you. I tried to stay calm and explain to them, again, that money was for my future, that Chase could look for a cheaper apartment or, I don't know, get a job first and then move out. My dad turned red in the face and said they weren't asking my permission, that it was my obligation as a younger brother to help. And that's when it got really ugly. Because suddenly they weren't asking for $10,000 anymore. My mom blurted out that they actually needed the full $37,000 because Chase also needed a car to be able to go job hunting, because apparently he couldn't use public transportation, like the rest of us mortals. And that my parents would cover the difference for everything else. I got up from the couch and told them they were crazy if they thought I was going to give them 4 years of my life in the form of money to maintain Chase's lifestyle. My dad stood up too and told me that if I didn't give them the money, to get out of his house. Literally, just that direct. He said, "This is my house, and if you're going to live here being part of this family, you're going to act like family." My mom didn't say anything, just nodded, backing up my dad, and Chase walked into the living room at that moment. Obviously, he'd been listening to everything, with a smile on his face like, obviously they're going to choose me. I went up to my room, shaking with a rage. I don't know if you've ever felt that sensation where your chest is so tight you feel like you're going to explode, but you also can't cry because you're too angry. I sat on my bed and started thinking about my options, which weren't many, honestly. I could give in and give them the money, losing 4 years of work and my dream of starting my business. Or I could stand firm and probably end up on the street. Neither sounded particularly great, you know what I mean? The next few days were an absolute nightmare. My mom wouldn't talk to me directly. She just left me passive-aggressive notes all over the house like, family that loves helps each other, or a real brother wouldn't be so selfish. My dad basically ignored me completely except to remind me that I had until Friday to make the right decision. Chase, that idiot, walked around the house like he already had the apartment, showing me pictures of furniture on his phone and telling me I should visit him when he moved, like we were best friends or something. Wednesday of that week, my mom tried another tactic. She sat with me in the kitchen while I was having breakfast before going to class and started telling me about how they had sacrificed a lot for us, how when I was a baby, they barely had money but always gave me what I needed. How they paid for my braces when I was 13, even though it was expensive. And I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, Mom, that's literally what parents are supposed to do, raise their kids. It's not like you owe me now. But I didn't say it out loud because I knew it would only make things worse. Friday came, and I still hadn't given in. My dad called me to the living room after dinner, again with his serious face, and gave me the final ultimatum. He said he had been very patient with me. Ha ha, that's funny. That he had given me time to reconsider, but that if I didn't transfer the money to them right then, I had to pack my things and leave the house that same night. My mom was standing there with her arms crossed, nodding, and Chase was leaning on the doorframe, with that stupid smile that made me want to punch it off his face. I told them no, that I wasn't going to give them my money. My dad stood up and told me I had 2 hours to get all my stuff out. I went up to my room and started packing, and I swear in that moment I still couldn't believe they were really doing this. I put all my clothes in 2 big suitcases, grabbed my laptop, my important documents, my video game console, basically everything that was mine and that I could carry. My mom came up like 45 minutes later and stood in the doorway watching me pack without saying anything. I think waiting for me to break down and apologize or something, but I just kept putting away my things without looking at her. When I finished packing, I called my best friend, the only one I had told what was happening those days. I explained the situation, and without hesitation, he told me I could stay at his apartment as long as I needed, that he had a sofa bed, and it was no problem. I brought down my suitcases, walked through the living room where the 3 of them were sitting, and walked out the door without saying a word. My mom yelled something like, "You're going to regret this." But I was already outside putting my things in my car, a 2015 Honda Civic that I bought myself. By the way, in case you were wondering, the first few days at my friend's apartment were super weird. I felt like I was in limbo, you know? On one hand, I was proud of having maintained my position and not having given them my money. But on the other hand, I couldn't stop thinking about how I had just lost my family over money. My friend was incredible. Seriously. He gave me my space when I needed it, but also made sure I ate and didn't stay locked in my head all day. And his girlfriend was also super cool. She cooked for me and made sure I knew I was welcome there. Like 5 days after I left, Chase sent me a text message. I'm not going to lie. When I saw his name on my phone, I thought maybe he was going to apologize or something. But no, how naive I was. The message said something like, "I hope you're happy. You ruined my chance at having a normal life, all because you're a selfish person who only thinks about himself. Mom and Dad are destroyed because of you." I read the message like 3 times because I couldn't believe the level of delusion. Like, seriously, he was blaming me? I didn't respond, just left it on read. But that message made me really angry the rest of the day. After like a week, I decided I needed to act more proactively about my situation. I looked for a lawyer who offered free consultations and went to see him to make sure my parents couldn't somehow access my money. The guy, a man like 50 years old with glasses and a desk full of papers, listened to me tell the whole story and then explained that since I was of legal age and the money was in an account in my name, legally they couldn't touch it. He also advised me to save any messages or evidence of threats just in case. Things got uglier. I left there feeling a bit more secure. At least I knew my money was protected. Like 2 more weeks passed and I got a better paying job at an advertising company, like real office work with good salary. Which was incredible because it meant I could start looking for my own place to live instead of being on my friend's couch indefinitely. I found a small studio near campus. Nothing fancy, but it was mine and I could afford it without problems with my new job. And the day I signed the rental contract, I felt a weird mix of excitement and sadness because I was starting my independent life, but at the same time, I realized I really didn't have a family to go back to. A month after leaving the house, my mom sent me a message. It said that Chase had decided not to rent that apartment because circumstances had changed, that they missed me and that if I wanted, we could talk to work things out. She didn't mention anything about the money or about apologizing for kicking me out, just a generic, "We miss you." I responded by asking her directly if she was apologizing for kicking me out of the house for not giving them my savings, and she never answered. My dad sent me a message 2 days later saying basically the same thing. That family was important and we should get over this. But again, 0 apologies, 0 acknowledgement that they had been wrong. Last week, a family friend, the lady who lives in the house next to my parents and has known me since I was a kid, called to tell me something that left me frozen. She told me that my parents had been telling all the neighbors and family members that I had abandoned them, that I had left the house for no reason because I was an ungrateful son, and that they had even made up a story about me having drug problems, and that's why they had asked me to leave. I mean, they were literally destroying my reputation with lies to make themselves look like the victims of the situation. That was what finished breaking any hope. I maybe had stored a way of someday reconciling with them. I blocked my mom's, dad's, and Chase's numbers on my phone. I blocked all their social media. I basically cut all contact because I realized I wasn't going to get anything good from keeping that door open. And honestly, even though it sounds dramatic to say it like that, it was liberating. I stopped feeling that constant pressure of wondering if I should contact them or if they were okay. I simply focused on my own life. Now I have my apartment. My job at the advertising company is going well, and I still have my $37,000 saved for when I'm ready to start my business. I'm taking online courses in digital marketing at night and planning exactly what kind of services I'm going to offer when I launch my company. My friend and his girlfriend visit me often. They basically became my chosen family. There are days when I feel lonely and wonder if I did the right thing, if I should have given in to keep family peace. But then I remember how they treated me, how they didn't care about 4 years of my effort, and I know I had no other choice. I'm not going to lie. It still hurts to think that my own family chose me last, that they preferred to keep Chase in his comfort bubble, rather than support my dreams. But I guess that says more about them than about me, right? At the end of the day, I protected my future, and that's what matters.